Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.
Okay, is it too loud?
Nope.
You sure?
Nope.
All right.
My voice kind of goes all over, so I'm apologize in advance.
You about ready?
I'm ready, man.
Crack it open. Oh my God.
This is how we're starting.
I can see how this is going to go. Yeah.
We're doing it.
We're doing it. Hey, thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
No, officially, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having me. I'm like super pumped to do
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
I want to talk some comedy.
Yeah.
Some Pittsburgh comedy.
Yeah, man.
Or anything.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I want to see what's on the noggin.
Hey, winging it. We're doing it.
So, before we even start,
Right.
for those of you who have not followed Sarah on Instagram, do it. But if you have not, it's Instagram. I'm sure other platforms.
Yeah, I think
you youngsters use different platforms than us older folks do. You know?
I'm definitely most active on Instagram.
Insta, as my daughter says. Dad, it's
The
Insta.
the IG.
Oh, the IG.
Esmo is my handle.
What is Esmo?
Esmo is a nickname that came across because my name is Sarah Morgan.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of Sarahs in the world.
Yeah.
And so when I was at work, I think at the time I worked with like 3 or 4 different Sarahs. And when you're on the walkie, it was
Mo. Well, if you would just put S and Mo, I would have figured it out.
It was already taken. So I had
It was like a little Latino action going on. I wasn't sure the way you had it spelled, I wasn't sure what was going on.
I had to get freaky with it, with the ESS.
I thought it was SMO or something.
Yeah, the ESSMOE. But it's also a conversation starter.
There you
Because
go.
if it was just SMO,
SMO.
you know.
All right.
Yeah, so
The tattoo. I gotta get it. Because
All right.
anyone that has not been to your Instagram is going to find it. You know?
oh yeah. I mean, you got to do some scrolling. But
That's what
it's
we
on
do
there.
in prep here.
It is on there. And yeah, so we'll just get right into it. I have an enormous tattoo of a double-decker cheeseburger on my hip, and that is why I'm here today.
No, it's not the entire reason why you're here today. It's a sliver of why you might be here today.
It helped. Yeah, so I have a few tattoos. That one is definitely the most awesome. It is a double-decker cheeseburger.
And a design behind it.
And yeah, it's like a portrait-esque
Yeah.
of a hamburger with like a night sky behind it and real pretty.
What condiments are on there? Can you
Everything.
see? Of course.
All of it, baby.
Of course.
Yeah. It's everything. And so it is a memorial tattoo for a dog who basically when I rescued him, he was like feral.
Okay.
He was a feral animal. He like didn't know.
You just found them?
I got him at Animal Humane
Okay.
Rescue, I think is what they call it.
Humane Society?
The Humane Society.
Right.
And he was really rough. Like he looked like a dingo dog. Like he was a really rough dog. But he was great, and he had a lot of like digestive problems and things like that. And so we found out over time that the only thing that would go in him and stay in him was hamburger meat. So for almost 15 years, we cooked him hamburger.
So he was a carnivore.
He was
purely.
pure carnivore. And he like lived on the street for a while.
Wow.
And he had street dog aspects. I also love cheeseburgers as a human myself. And
You were a connoisseur.
I was a connoisseur
Yes.
of cheeseburgers.
Did you write reviews and all that stuff?
I did not. I'm not a Yelper.
What is even? I know what Yelp is, but why is that even a thing?
Why are so many things a
I know.
thing?
We'll get there. We'll get there. Don't
Like-
worry. We'll get there.
Is it necessary? Yeah, so I would get burgers after work. Like the only place that was open after work was McDonald's. So I would go to McDonald's and I would get myself a hamburger and the dog a hamburger. And I would go home and eat the hamburger in a bathtub, which is more photos that you can see on my Instagram. My friend did an amazing like boudoir portrait for my 35th birthday where I was like in a bathtub, like cloaked in bubbles, eating a hamburger. And I was like, most women do like super sexy lingerie. Like, this is my version of that.
Well, yours was more authentic, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I know we don't know each other, but like, come on. Yeah. So me and the dog would eat burgers in the bathroom, and that's how we lived for a long time. And he passed away, and I was like, I want to get something, because he was such a huge part of my life for so long. And I was just like sitting around a fire one night with my friends, and I was like, how about a hamburger? And everybody kind of looked at me like, yeah, duh, get that. So I did research, not of hamburgers, but like color and style. Mm-hmm. And I found a shop, and I am terrible at names, and I can't remember the name of it, but I went in and I was like, hey, this is my idea for a tattoo. I was looking at these two artists, and this guy like pops his head up over the partition, and he's like, I'm doing that tattoo. And I was like, all right, let's go, man. His handle is Lou Skywalker.
Skywalker.
Yeah, Lou, L-U. He's an amazing artist. I mean, I gave him like the elements that I wanted, and then just let him fly with it, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Thank you.
That's pretty cool.
I have it forever.
Yeah, and most people get tribute tattoos. They're generally, when you do a tribute tattoo, I have my observations been they're generally smaller in size, or like a name.
No, I go big.
Yeah.
Yeah. I go big with everything in my life. There's nothing small about me.
Yeah, right on. Well, go big or go home,
That's
right?
right. That's
my
right.
generation didn't coin that phrase, so maybe it was yours. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know either, but yeah, definitely a go big situation.
So, comedy. Because I am fascinated by comedians. I'm fascinated by the decision to be a comedian. I'm fascinated what it takes to get up in front of people and perform and try to make them laugh.
Yeah.
I think it's different than being an actor and have them buy into a story, because there's sometimes a little element of that.
Right.
In the delivery. It's kind of just a different thing to me.
Yeah.
Obviously, I can't do it. That's why I'm fascinated by it. Now, it would have been funny if I had dropped this on these lights and they would have exploded. That would have been a moment.
The comedic timing would have been impeccable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Miss Improv here. She can talk. We'll talk about that.
Right.
But why? How are we sitting here? Like, how did you get on my radar? How did you enter this?
Well, I had a tattoo on it. No,
that is true.
Kidding.
That I saw on the internet. Let's clarify that right now before I get in trouble.
Right. Yeah. No creepy crawlers was happening. So I got into comedy, and to preface, I am new. I got into comedy September of 2019. Mm-hmm. It is something that I had always wanted to do as a child.
Okay.
As a child, I remember specifically watching In Living Color and looking at the screen and thinking, I want to do that. And the women that were on that show, and I used to get so mad because I would be like, I want to be on In Living Color, and people would be like, oh, you want to be a fly girl? And I'm like, no, I want to be a comedian. Like I would get pissed.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have the resources around me. Like I wasn't a theater kid.
Okay.
I didn't do that sort of thing. I wasn't musical. I wasn't in that
So
realm.
you weren't in the arts then, so to speak?
I did like painting and art and stuff like that, but not when it came to like performance art.
Okay.
The people in my area that were in performance art weren't my kind of people. And I didn't I hung out with them socially a little bit, but it just wasn't something that I was like, oh, this is a way to do comedy. Okay. I always saw, when I was a kid, performing arts as like the theater and musicals and that stuff. Well, I wasn't into that. I was into being funny.
Okay.
And so I was always goofing around at home, and I'd hike my pants way up and put suspenders on and pretend I was Steve Urkel, and The cheerleader from SNL and putting my hands over my armpits and, so like just doing stuff like that.
Oh, it's all rushing back to me now.
Yeah. And like, and my family was just like, okay, you're goofy. So it wasn't even on my radar, for most of my life. And then I had like a series of events where I was just like, you need to do what you want to do.
Okay.
You need to do the things that you've always thought about doing, but for whatever reason never did. And that was comedy. So I reached out to Dave Bracey and I said, hey, I want to get into comedy, but I don't know what I'm doing. And we have mutual friends, so he kind of knows me on a personal level, where he was like, yeah, you don't know what you're doing. And he said to me, go take an improv class.
Okay.
It's going to get you comfortable with being on stage.
Okay.
It's going to get you in the community. You're going to understand how to throw jokes because of the improv training. When you need to, and crowd work and things like that. And I was like, okay, well, where do you do that? So he like gave me a list, and one of the places was Arcade Comedy Theater.
Yes.
And he had, I don't know what's happening, but a monthly show there, sold out every month.
Is it Ed Jones?
Ed Bailey.
I'm sorry.
Dave Bracey, yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the podcast, the Drinking Partners.
Yeah, the Drinking Partners podcast.
Yeah, right on.
And both of them are just like amazing.
Yeah.
Renaissance human beings. Like, let's be real. And so I was like, okay. And I went on the computer and they were like, Improv 101 starting in 2 weeks. And I was like, well, I better get on it. I'm going to do this. Signed up for my first class. Took 101. And it was cool because like you get in a space of like-minded people.
Right.
Now, with that said, not everyone in that class was there to be a comedian. Like there was one lady who does a lot of presentations at work. She wanted to get more comfortable with speaking in public.
So before we go there, anyone out there who might not be versed on exactly what improv is, can you give us like the 120-second tour there?
Yeah. I will do my best. I feel like Arcade's going to listen to this.
Because we all hear
does she know?
What the hell's she been doing all this time?
Did we teach her anything? So basically the whole basis of improv is the yes and. And so basically what happens is you go on stage and you get a suggestion from the audience. That suggestion can be a location, a relationship, something you buy in aisle 5 at Target, whatever. So let's say toothpaste is our suggestion. Okay. So we're going to do a scene revolving around toothpaste in some capacity. It doesn't have to be literal toothpaste. It might be turning your teeth into paste. I don't know.
Okay.
It depends on where it goes according to your partners in the scene with you.
Got it.
Now there's short form and there's long form improv. Short form improv, whose line is it anyway? That is short form improv. It's a series of short games, like 5 minutes or less. There's like mechanics in the games, like, people making a machine out of their bodies and, people being someone else's arms, standing behind them, like real silly. And then there's long form improv, which there was a special on Netflix, Middleditch and Schwartz, and that's a long form improv type of situation where it's more like conversational kind of things. But as an improv team, you take yes and you build on that. So it's like, oh, my tooth hurts. Somebody comes in, I'm going to rip it out. Oh, I'm going to sell this for $50 million, and it can go any which way.
Okay.
So you as a performer really need to be aware of what is happening. You need to have a connection with the people that you're working with because, like I know so-and-so is probably going to reference a video game. I know so-and-so is probably going to reference a bad date. I know,
Got it.
So as you get to know your team, you kind of know like where people are coming from. With me, I feel like they kind of are like, you just bring some weird shit. You know? And sometimes I don't even, like, the other night I was a cow, you know, like, just like stuff like that. So I think, you know, Day was 100%, you know, doing improv, learning the yes and, learning the mechanics of being on stage, throwing your voice, playing to the back of the room,
Right.
You know, being aware of your space, what else is going on at the same time, being able to change on a dime when you need to is great for anybody that talks to people, especially.
Right.
You know, I've noticed in myself, just in conversations that I'm having with people, like if I'm tripping up on words, I'm able to pivot and change that conversation around.
So it kind of teaches you the dynamics of a conversation.
Teaches you the dynamics of a
mechanics of it?
conversation, but it also teaches you to like be completely uncomfortable and get out of your space and
Right.
out of your own way,
Right.
and go with your gut instinct and do the first thing that comes to mind and ride it out, you know. And I think a lot of people, there's like a timidness
Yeah. when
you start, like, should I be a bowl of jelly? Yes, and I'm spicy, you know, like, so you know, that's improv. So 2019, September 2019, I started taking 101.
Okay.
Everybody in my class was super cool. They were like, hey, you need to keep going. I took it with the premise of getting ready for stand-up. I did not take it with the premise of continuing on. I took
That's
the
interesting.
102 class along with, they have like an intro to stand-up class, which was really great. And then I took a 201 class with them as well. And then as we were going into the next session, that's when shit hit the fan and everything shut down. So I had been around the theater for a few months, and the theater at the time had a lot of house teams for improv. So basically like groups of people that would put on monthly shows as a team. And because I was taking classes, there was like a shuffle in teams, and there was a space that opened for the student team called Select Start. Scott Trampus, he's like the student coordinator. He was like, hey, there's an open space on Select Start. Do you want it? And I was like, yes. And, you know, like there wasn't like let's try out, you know, it was just like, do you want to do this?
Right.
So I started working with them in February. We did like 4 or 5 shows together before the theater shut down. And then
what was appealing to you at that time? Like what because you initially wanted to be a stand-up comedian, right? That's where you ended it. At least you thought you did.
Right.
You started doing improv, and you started to, I'm guessing, really like it.
Yeah, it was so different than anything else I had ever experienced. And every situation is new. You know, like we can play a game. We can play Shift Left, where it's 4 people on stage and you're doing 4 different scenes. And the host will say shift and everybody rotates and you pick up a new scene. Shift, everybody rotates.
I've seen that before.
You pick up a new scene. You can play that game 9,000 times and you will never play it the same way ever. Because of the suggestions you get and the people that you're playing with. And,
Got it.
And for me, you know, it kept my mind sharp.
I bet.
You know, because you have to be on and you have to be paying attention and you have to be plugged in to the people that are around you. And the people that I was with in the classes were so great that I wanted to stick with them through the program, you know. The people that were on the team, I didn't know at all. So when I went to the team, it was like, okay, well, now I have to learn all these new personalities and how to play with these new personalities. So that was very appealing to me because I had been playing with those other people for months.
Yeah,
you know, I knew what made them tick.
Right.
This was a whole new group of people. Let me figure out what makes them tick. So we did that, and then pandemic, and we kind of, you know, Beth Getches is our team coach. She's the one that like sets up our shows and like runs practices and is, you know, make sure you're doing this, emphasize that, da da da. She was great in that she was like, well, the theater's closed. What do you want to do? You know? And it was basically like, who has Zoom? And can we all meet on Zoom? And so we got together in like mid to late March, and we were just kind of like, I mean, I guess we could do improv online. But also everyone was like shifting with their job situation, their home, you know, there was a lot happening. So like for us, we meet once a week for practice and rehearsal. And we were like, let's just meet online and hang out online. And we did that for a couple weeks. And like we played games on Twitch in like, and then it was like, okay, I kind of miss doing improv. Like, what games would translate from the stage to an online format?
Right.
And so Beth kind of like, she's been doing improv for 20 years. She like went into her bag of tricks and was like, I think this might work and I think that might work. And, you know, for a couple months, we were just experimenting with games and the technical and, you know, what makes sense in this format. And then
that had to be difficult.
It was hard. I mean, I think it shifted my as a comedian. I'm pretty physical, especially with improv. I'm always running around and kicking and you know, and with the Zoom you're this much. Luckily I have a face of rubber, and so I used that to my advantage. We also played around with like standing while you're doing it, not sitting down, so that you can move around. Like, oh, hey, this is fun. I can make myself look like I'm upside down. Now I'm a bat or a vampire, you know? So it's really like, it was really like diving into like the preferences and settings of Zoom to make it something else. Some of the like strict rules kind of went out the door because we didn't have the stage, you know, so we were able to do things like
what's a strict rule?
Like improv doesn't use props. You do something called object work where you're pretending. I'm pretending to drink.
Got it.
But we're all at home.
Too bad America can't do that.
Yeah, right.
Weight Watchers are out of business.
Right? I know.
I mean,
this tea is so good. Yeah, so like we started utilizing props, and like there's a game called Props, and so it was just like playing around with those elements.
Okay.
And also making it entertaining for people at home too.
Well, that's the intangible, right?
Right. Because you're like in this abyss where you're like, I think it's funny. Do you think it's funny? Because you're not getting any
feedback, right?
Yeah, you're not. And that was another, like now, they run everything through their YouTube platform.
Okay.
So we don't have an audience on Zoom, but we have comedians on Zoom that are on the show, either like during that set or the next set or whatever.
Right.
So those people have unmute so that we can hear their laughter.
Got it.
Because it does help.
I bet
it does. It makes a difference. But the trick is, if you laugh too hard, you cut the sound from the comedians and you miss the jokes. So you have to be aware. You have to be you have to be really, I mean, there's settings and stuff that you can do so that doesn't happen.
It doesn't clip.
But you do have to be aware of that. Like as a viewer, like, oh, I'm stealing their show because I'm hysterically laughing in my underpants, you know? So yeah, it's just this whole other element of stuff.
You saw the stand-up shows that some of the national acts were touring with, were in the drive-ins.
Yeah, and
I heard some crazy reviews of that stuff.
I went to a couple.
Okay.
it's okay. So here's the thing. Once you start doing comedy, you watch comedy in a different way.
I'm sure.
Like, being a musician, you listen to music in a different way.
It kind of ruins the fan experience.
It kind of trips you up a little bit. So like when I see comics doing their thing, I'm really watching the nitty gritty, and I'm really like absorbing. I try not to watch a lot of comedy because I don't want to absorb too much and influence my voice with theirs. But at the same time, you can learn a lot by watching people. Like, I went to Hannibal's show out in Butler, and I was like, you can tell too many COVID jokes. I went to a Drinking Partners drive-in show, which went great. That I was like super impressed with how that went. But I was like, this is weird. I'm in my car and people are honking.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Like, I mean, get it or not, it's how humans adapted to the situation.
Okay.
And isn't that like the circle of life? Is adaptation.
I would think. Well, we have no choice.
Right.
Do it or die.
Right. And honestly, the connections that I made at Arcade, the people that I met, the things that I learned really set me up to continue doing comedy through the pandemic.
Got it.
I think had I not met the people that I met through them, I wouldn't have continued because I wouldn't have known where to go, what to do,
right,
who to work with,
right.
And I'm just like obnoxiously thankful for that above all else, because I've learned so much in a short period of time. Jason Clark is the general manager at Arcade, and he and I were talking the other day about online comedy and and things are coming back, and I was like, look, man, I've done online comedy, I've done outdoor shows, I'm doing an indoor show. Like, I'm pumped that I don't have to worry about the weather. I don't have to worry about helicopters hovering over me. Like, there was a motorcycle gang that went right through my set. I don't have to worry about that. I'm inside, like air conditioning.
It makes you appreciate what you had originally.
It really did. And he started laughing. He was like, man, it's like online comedy is like dog years in regular comedy, and it really is, because like there were things and there were people that I had exposure to that normally would have taken 5 to 7 years for me to get to. But everybody has the internet. Almost everybody has the internet.
Yeah.
And so it got me in front of people I normally wouldn't have gotten in front of. And, social media, like, people reached out about certain things and, whatever. And I think that, like, that whole aspect really taught me that those connections are super important, and really be active in it. A lot of people are just kind of blasé about who they talk to and whatever. I know that part, but I think this past year and a half has really made people be intentional with who they talk to.
I hope
so too. I mean, there's always like
some that aren't. Exception, right?
But for me personally, it really was like, these are my people.
Yeah.
I'm going to protect these people. I hope one day I get to a point where I can help them out, in different ways that they've helped me out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you've probably talked about the pandemic and ad nauseum, and I'm not here to
I actually haven't.
You haven't? All right, then. Here we go.
Yeah.
So where were you? Like the 9/11 question I was always asked my whole life, where were you? When you realized that it wasn't just this thing on the news, that really they're going to shut the world down.
I might be the only person that tells you this. My life did not change at all.
Interesting.
I had been working from home for 6 years. I am solo dolo all the time. I live alone. Mm-hmm. I have been, if I don't have to go to the store, I don't go to the store. I get it delivered.
Got it.
You know, Amazon Prime, working it. Target, red card, got it. You know what I mean? Like, I very much lived quarantine life before quarantine.
Got it.
So for me, you know, when everything popped off, I was just kind of like, oh, this is happening. I'm already set up. You know, I don't need to worry about much.
Okay.
I have a home. I don't need to worry about some landlord coming in and taking it. Mm-hmm. I have a job that's online, and that's where everybody's going. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to keep doing my thing. The only thing that changed was comedy, in that I wasn't going out to do it. I was staying home to do it.
Got it.
I kind of joke around about, like, you know, my hobbies are very solitary hobbies, where I go hiking, I go stand-up paddleboarding, I ride my bike, because it's like a great physical outlet for me at the end of the day.
Sure.
And it's a solitary thing, so I can really, like, you know, when I come up with ideas, it's usually when I'm walking my dog. Mm-hmm. And then I, like, pop it in my phone and go back to it later or whatever. And, you know, last year everybody thought they could ride a bike.
So your world got a little more annoying, probably.
I was pissed. All these kids are home doing homeschool. Yeah, right. They're in the front yard screaming their heads off. You know, everybody's at home working, screwing up the bandwidth. Everybody thinks they're going to go to the park. I can't take my dog to the park because there's so many people. It's not social distanced, you know? So it's like, I got angry and I was like, oh, I used to just be able to order my groceries same day. Now there's like this like coding thing that I found online that tells you when the next time slot's going to pop up and you got to grab it, you know, like, just let me get my food. So for me, I was like,
it was annoying.
I was annoyed.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
You're encroaching on my life.
Yeah.
You know, I had a lot of friends that, like, when they first couple months into working from home, they were like, how do you do this every day?
Yeah, I was already quarantined. I was self-quarantined. Y'all just joined the party.
Like, welcome to my world. And I was like, I live and die by my Google Calendar. Like, and I was like giving people tips, you know, like about, I was like, guess what? You're not at the office. You can change your chair. You know?
Yeah,
if you want to work on the front porch, you can work on the front porch.
I get it.
So now it's like, thank God y'all are going back to work, because I need peace and quiet.
Hopefully they are going back to work.
It seems like a lot of my neighbor, I've noticed less cars on the street.
Yeah.
That was the other thing. Like, I didn't know my neighbors. I lived there 6 years.
You probably love that.
I loved it. Now I know my neighbors, and I don't like them. I mean, some of them are cool, but, like, not everybody. I don't need to know about your sex life. You know, like, calm down.
We do know too much shit about other people, don't we?
Yeah.
We're forced to absorb too much shit about other people.
Yeah. 100%.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it listen. I love it. I made a show. I made Nebby Neighbors about it. You know, like, when I moved into my house, my neighbor invited me to this thing called Next Door. And if you don't know what Next Door is, it's basically...
It's the welcome basket bullshit?
No.
Oh, what is that?
It's like Facebook, but for your neighborhood. Yeah. Exactly. Ooh. So it's the worst.
I'm a realtor and I'm going, ooh.
It is the worst of social media.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And
got it.
So I was like, all right, you know, let me see what this is about. I get on there.
So like a Facebook group within Facebook?
No, it's its own website.
You'll have profiles and all that.
Yeah, it's like, it's its own website, and it'll say, like, Sarah Morgan lives on, and you can tailor how much information you put out there, but it'll say, like, if like mine doesn't say my street, but it says my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like Halloween.
There's probably a shit ton of realtors on that stuff. Huh?
Probably.
Yeah.
But like for Halloween, it's like, are you giving out candy? Yes or no?
Oh, great.
You know,
that's a little bit too encroaching on privacy. I mean, you're going there willingly.
You're going there willingly.
But for me personally,
listen, my dad got Facebook like 3 years ago. He was walking down the street. His neighbor said happy birthday to him, and he lost his shit. He was like, how does she know it's my birthday? I never talked to her in my life.
That is great.
And I was like, Dad, you're on Facebook now. Well, how do I get that off of there? You know, so I think, you know.
That is the best.
Yeah.
That is the best.
But
go Dad.
I can definitely see, you know, people just plugging in information, not realizing, this is visible.
It's the story of Americans.
Yeah, this is visible to other people.
Right on. Wow.
But yeah, so I go on there and I was like, man, I hate people, but I love these next door folks because they are wild. Like the stuff they put on there and talk about and whatever. And I would like screenshot because it only shows you your like a radius.
Okay.
So like wherever you live, I wouldn't get it.
Got it.
You know, like I wouldn't get Coriopolis where I live. And so you really only see like a certain mileage around where you live. And I would read these posts and just like laugh so hard, like talk about comedy content, you know, and I would like send them to friends and all this stuff. And when the theater shut down, they were like, hey, you know, we're looking for online programming.
Got it.
So if anybody has any ideas, you know, pitch it. We might do it. And I was like, all right, so I'm thinking about making Next Door a show. And they were like, yes. And Beth Getches, she, you know, the coach of the improv, she's like, I'm on it. I want to do this with you. And I was like, good, because I don't know anything about putting a show together. I don't know anything about the technical aspect of putting a show together. I know it's funny to me.
No, wait, Sam.
You know?
Little sidebar. We can't leave this unaddressed. So you got to tell me some of the shit you encountered through Next Door.
On Next Door. Oh, man. It is a wealth.
I can't imagine. I cannot imagine.
The thing that makes me consistently laugh, and I have it in Nebby Neighbors, is people posting online about their power being out. Now, why would you go to an electronic source to talk about your power being out? I don't know. But to me,
it doesn't make any sense.
Like, look out the window. That's what we did when I was younger. Like, oh, the power went out in my house. Let me go see if my neighbor's power is out. No, let me go on this app and say, my power is out. Is your power out? That
or like
to
the
me
winter,
is
like, how's the roads?
How's the roads? Oh, they never plow my street. I swear, why are we spending all this money and my street never gets plowed? Somebody in the last show we did, someone found underwear on the sidewalk, and then a few blocks down they found a t-shirt, and it was like, you know, what happened last night? There's always like weird stuff about like, I saw something in the sky. Was it a UFO? Like, what is going on? You know? So it's just like, Is it the pandemic, or are people just generally always whacked like that? I think people are just whacked. Like, people are just whacked out.
I think so.
And I think that, like, there's something about the online aspect where, like, common sense goes away. You know, and it's like, I can just pull whatever I want. And there are like heavy hitters on Next Door that you will see on like post on every comment, and like, you know, they are like people in the neighborhood.
They have an opinion of everything.
They have an opinion about everything. The street that I live on turned into like a safe street for biking and walking, and they put signs up. This is what really started the whole Nebby Neighbors idea. They put like sandwich board signs at a bunch of intersections on my street, and they were like, you know, this is a safe street for pedestrians, children, and bicycles. Meaning, slow your ass down, stop at a stop sign. People got so mad at signs.
Why?
Well,
They were offended?
they were offended. They said,
I got my rights. Ain't telling me what I'm doing.
Yeah, there were people that were like, this generation.
Here we go.
And their signs, everything has a sign. You can't even see the sign when you're speeding past. Keyword speeding past. Don't do that. You're also posting online about a sign that you claim no one is reading. So apparently you read it as you sped past. You know? There was like 250 comments. Like one guy was like, it's going to bring my property value down because they put this... Granted, it's a sandwich board. You can pick it up and move it. You know what I mean? Like, he was really hurt.
They've been having those children play here, little yellow signs with the guy
guys
the flag.
with the
Yeah,
flag.
that's been around 30 years.
Yeah. I think maybe, like, because this was, like, city stamped, like, that made it offensive. You know, bike lanes or, you know, like Hot Topic in Pittsburgh. I think that maybe that had something to do with it.
Might have got the guy out of office. He's out now.
I mean, there's a lot, and there's also a lot of people that are like, they've lived on that street their entire lives. They've never moved, you know? And so I think that kind of, it narrows your perspective on life.
Certainly.
And a lot of comments were like, I've lived here 50 years.
Nobody cares.
Nobody speeds down this street.
But
and
no
I'm
one
like,
cares.
Actually, I was hit by a car.
Yeah.
Like, for real, in my neighborhood.
No shit.
Yeah, I was in the crosswalk.
Wow.
Crossing the street with my dog. And I got hit by a car because a guy didn't stop at the stop sign.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm dead serious. And so after that happened, I was like, look, man,
Yeah.
I'm a grown up. Like, if I was a
Sometimes.
child, like, if I was pint sized, this would have gone really bad.
Yeah, no doubt. Wow.
Yeah. So, like, you know, for me, seeing all these people complain about a sandwich board, I was like, get it together, and I'm going to make a show about it because you're all ridiculous. You know? Yeah, so I started Nebby Neighbors pretty much after I read that post, and I was like, this is a gold mine of content.
Forever.
And it is probably one of the most fun things in comedy that I am doing and you know, have done, because it's just so, and every rehearsal I start out with, bring the weird. If you have a weird costume, I want to see it.
Okay, so help me out understand what this is. This is improv.
So it's a variety online show.
Okay.
It is short form improv. We have dramatic comedic readings of actual posts.
Okay. Can you transition to a real live show at some point?
I mean, hopefully eventually. Yeah. And Beth and I are working on ways to make that happen because it is a very visually based show.
I would imagine.
You know, like the whole premise is like this stuff comes from the internet, so we're going to make it look like it's on the internet, you know.
Got it.
So like we open we kind of have a format with the show. We open every show. It's called Neighborhood Roundup, and it's just the wild stuff I find online, and we have players that pick their characters and just run with it. You know, voices, costumes, whatever. We have a stand-up portion of the show. We have like a goofy bit called "Is This Your Cat?" because that's like another thing people post on there is like, is this a pet or is this a feral cat? Like, what is happening? You know, so we have that bit. Yeah, like and then, you know, we switch things in and out here and there. Beth and her improv partner they have these characters called Ruth and Ethel that are like super crazy grannies.
And Ethel.
Yeah, and they're just like these sexually charged grannies. And, you know, last show they were looking for a contractor for their wet basement. Okay, the innuendo is endless. So they're always in the show.
No, I got it prior. I had another one.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not gonna go there.
Okay. We'll leave that.
I didn't want you to think I was that slow.
We'll leave that.
I didn't want you to think I was that slow.
Well, you know, other people might have needed the help. But then, and then we close out the show with like a long post of dramatic reading of something goofy. And that's the basis of the show. And it's just silly. It's just silly. I host the whole way through the show. I put the the script together for everybody. Beth and I figure out the format of the show together. And then once I have the order ready to go for the people that are in the show, I send it over to her, and she makes like all the slides with the posts on them. Sometimes we insert little videos or music, or she wrote our theme song and our closing credit song.
So is everything scripted? How does that show work as opposed to that's not pure improv, right?
It's not pure improv.
Okay.
It's definitely this like hybrid Zoom prov thing that happened,
or whatever that is, because you're creating it as you go.
We're creating it as we go. Yeah,
Right.
the neighborhood roundup, the first bit is scripted.
Got it.
All of the short form games are pure improv.
Yeah, right on.
Spontaneous. We send out an online suggestion form prior to the show so that we can get like, something goofy you saw in your neighborhood, or like if you could live next to a celebrity, who would it be? And we use those in the show for the short form improv games. Then we have a stand-up comedian. I give them free reign on whatever they want to do and how they want to do it. I've offered to people like, hey, if you want to tape this, like sitting on your porch, whatever, send it to me. That's fine. But so far, everybody has just stuck to, I want to be part of the show.
Got it. Got it.
And then we like the Ruth and Ethel bit is improv, short form improv. And then our final reading is a scripted reading. So it's a kind of all over.
Yeah. It sounds like it.
Yeah, it's all over the place. But
Next
it is
door.
Oh man.
I've seen I even have clients, I think, over the years that have been hoodwinked into that in the neighborhoods they've moved into, and I just keep my distance. Yeah,
it's terrible, but it is fantastic. And like it is bad,
fantastically
in the best.
bad.
Oh yeah, it's bad in the best way. It's hilarious to me, and a lot of people are like, I can't get on there because it's just I hate everyone. Whereas I get on there and I'm like, you're amazing for being a douche, like that's just basically what it comes down to.
When you were saying that, I remember distinctly going back to like, I guess it was the late 2000s, and I was back in the dating world, and I would leave the apartment of this girl I was seeing around one or whatever, and I would on occasion see a very famous Pittsburgh Steeler with their hood over their head, sneaking in there to coming and going, which is, I recognized them. I said, hey, what's up? I think that probably wasn't a good idea, but I did it but we've come to find over a 4 or 5 month period that all kinds of like seediness was going on, just like really because apparently he was married, and apparently there was a love child involved, and apparently all this stuff.
Juicy.
Yeah, it was something.
Yeah.
So, but I was saying to myself, there really is no outlet. He's pretty safe. And right away, like Facebook almost kind of went poof.
Oh yeah.
Like right after I kind of split with her, I'm thinking to myself, man, if he had done that shit like 12 months later.
Yeah.
Just no way.
No. Never would have got away with it.
Just no way. I'm thinking to myself, that's just too, that stuff is just too, people are just ripe.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been on next door. Like somebody posted on there like, hey, I'm not mad. I just want to know if the drunk guy that fell in my bush is okay. Like stuff so like good. That,
What do you do with that?
You make a skit out of it, like that's what I mean. Like I go on there now and I read these things and I'm like, how can I put this in this show? So like it's really, before it was just like, oh, look at these idiots, but now it's like, hey, look at these idiots, how can I use this? Let's make it funny. So yeah,
real life is always the most fun.
It's great.
Right? I mean,
it's great.
You can't make it up. Sometimes other things you probably encounter you couldn't make up if you wanted to.
Hell no. It's life, man. And like, why does the wildest stuff happen when you're alone?
Like, what do you mean?
And then nobody will believe you. You know?
Well, you got to get out of the house once in a while.
I don't have to get out of the house. I know, I get out of the house. But I just, you know, like, I feel like things would happen and I would be like, oh my God, nobody's ever going to believe this.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And you, like, tell someone and they're like, get out of here. But now we live in a world where, like, there are people streaming their daily lives 24/7.
Everything's believable today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's no big deal anymore. Like,
especially after last year. Like, oh, anything goes. Like, for real. Anything goes.
So is comedy harder now because of that? Do you think?
No. I think...
You can't shock people much like you used to pre-pandemic, right?
You can definitely still shock people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that I think there's an awareness now that wasn't in comedy before.
Okay.
You know, there was a constant conversation before things started opening up, like, well, are you going to do COVID jokes? Should we joke about the pandemic? Are people... Look, I mean, I lost a good amount of friends during that time period. Not all because of COVID, you know, different aspects as well. Those are the casual, what they call them.
Oh,
I don't know.
Oh man.
Is there a term?
I know what you're saying. There is a term. People that might not have died of COVID, but they died kind of related to the pandemic, whether it's been lockdown, depression, whatever.
Right.
You know.
And so, like, they're, you know, with the people I was talking to, at least, like, there was that conversation. Like, do we want to talk about it? Like, some people look to comedy for things that are happening now and making light of those things that are happening now. Some people go to comedy to completely escape.
Yeah.
And have no recollection of anything going on, you know? And I think that kind of falls on the comic of what you want to talk about and what you don't want to talk about. I've seen some comics just, like, go straight into it, like, COVID, you know, that happened, and then go on with their set. And
so they address it up front.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's an elephant in the room if we don't talk about it, you know? Like, I know with the stuff that I've been doing, it's like, oh my God, I'm out of my house. You know, this is so great. Like, you know, we're here and we've made it this far, kind of thing, you know? Because people are excited to, like, be back out. I think to not acknowledge that falls short on your audience.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
You're acknowledging, like, you came this far, you bought a ticket, you made it out of the house, you're here to be entertained.
You put some pants with buttons on.
You put pants on, you know, like, you took a shower with soap. Good for you.
With soap.
You know, like, and I think that, like, you know, we need to acknowledge that in some capacity, for sure.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, because if you don't, I mean, you're obviously not acknowledging where we are at the moment.
Right.
You know?
Right. I mean, it was such a massive global scale thing that happened, you know, that
still seems surreal to you. Like, this morning I was thinking to myself, did that really fucking happen?
Yeah, it definitely
I wasn't really sure.
Definitely happened.
Yeah, it happened.
Yeah.
I come back to that realization when I think about it. But there's those moments I would say, wow, am I like in a parallel universe or some bullshit? Did that really happen?
You know what was wild to me was I hosted a show at the Improv, and I mean, lots of emotions were happening, but, you know, there is that added element of I'm going to be indoors with people I don't know.
Got it, yeah.
In a small space.
I'm with you.
And, you know, that adds a layer of nerves for you. And it was wild to me that after being in that space for like 15, 20 minutes, I was like, oh, this is how it is. Cool.
I remember.
You know? Yeah, I remember what it's like to be
normal
out with people I don't know. You know, not my, like, pod.
You didn't do much shopping during the pandemic.
I don't do much shopping when there's not a pandemic.
I understand, but I get it. I hear you.
I told my dad, I said, I have not been inside a grocery store in 3 years. Because if I can get it online, I'm going to get it online and delivered to my house. You know, like I am that person.
Got it.
It's not that like I have a fear or an anxiety or, you know, I don't have any. I just don't like to leave my house. Like my house is dope. You know, like my house is comfortable.
You got everything you need.
I have everything I need. I have good music. I have good food. I have a beautiful view. Like I really love my home.
Right.
And it's like, it's funny because people will come over. My one girlfriend, she was like, Esmo, I love your house because I just lose track of all my priorities and time. And it's like,
what the hell are you smoking in there?
Nothing. But like, isn't that what you want when people come over? Like you want people to feel that comfortable.
For sure.
You know? And like now people that I know through comedy who I've really only known online are coming to my house and they're like, now I see why you don't go anywhere. Like this is really cozy. So, I mean, if I'll go out, I go out, I socialize, I do stuff like that. But we have this technology where you don't have to.
You don't have to do much.
And listen, not having the stress of going to Giant Eagle at 7 o'clock on a Friday or whatever day. I used to go to grocery shop on Steeler days.
Of course.
Because nobody was there.
Of course, you're not the only one.
Yeah. And then people caught on.
That's the secret, yeah.
They
would tape it and start it later.
Right. Yeah, that was the secret. And so like, you know, it was kind of just always in me. Like I was always the kid that was like playing by myself in the corner on the playground. Like I'm just...
Well, Saturday nights are a good night too. Because people
Saturday
still
nights.
somewhat go out Saturday nights.
Don't go on Sundays. No.
Or Friday afternoon.
Yeah, Wednesday afternoon, sweet spot. Nobody's out.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and you know, during the pandemic, like
now look what you did.
Yeah, I
gave it up
let
now.
everyone know. But I order everything now, so it doesn't even matter. But during the pandemic, you know, when everybody was going to parks and hiking and riding their bicycles and like, that was not fun for me.
I bet not.
You know, because it was...
You're slamming into people.
It was so packed.
Yeah.
And
nothing's worse than being in a grocery store to wall and trying to maneuver a goddamn cart around a bend and running into people, and then people just stop. Right, you're
right in the middle,
and they start looking like it's like they're astounded by the 30 brands of cereal there.
Yeah. It's like
it's mesmerizing.
It's like you go into the dumb factory and get your food. And everyone loses a couple brain cells. Then you go into the parking lot and it's like Speed Racer trying to get out of there. Like, I can't tell you how many times people have almost hit me in a parking lot because they're just looking to get out. You know, they're not paying attention. So, yeah, so we have this technology. I can use it. I do use it. It's great. I recommend it. If you don't like going to the grocery store, guess what? You don't have to go to the grocery store anymore. You know, like, to not utilize the technology at our fingertips is silly.
I would agree because it's such a slog.
And like, and taking that however long it takes you to go to the grocery store, like, think about it. Like, get in your car, go to the grocery store, get home, unpack your groceries. Maybe you have to move your car because you can't.
It could be raining.
You know, whatever. It could be raining. It's probably like an hour and a half, you know, maybe 2 hours, depending on your home situation.
There's some people that like that, though.
Some people like it, but I think those people don't like their home.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good way
like,
of thinking.
I never want to be the person who sits in my car outside my house and goes on social media because I'm not ready to go inside yet. You know, like.
Those people are out there, huh?
Yeah. And I watch them from my front porch. And I'm like,
oh, they're in your neighborhood?
Oh, for sure, yeah. And I'm like, what's so bad about inside your house that you have, like, will sit in your car for 20 minutes?
I have a different theory on that. I think people do that. They're having affairs.
Possibly.
I do.
Yeah, possibly.
I mean, I've observed people doing that. You know?
And that's it, you know, technology. You can use it to however you wish. But yeah, I think that, you know, I found the sweet spots for doing things when a lot of people aren't doing things.
You like convenience.
I like convenience. I like time management.
What the hell are you wasting time here for?
I know, right? What the hell?
I don't know what I'm doing either.
It's a Sunday night.
Okay, good point. Nothing goes on a Sunday night anyway.
Yeah, it's whatever.
It's Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I have Hulu. I can watch 90 Day Fiancé later. It's fine.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It's fine.
They still have the real old lady on there that was engaged to like the.
They're all old ladies.
The guy's from Nigeria, I think he was. That's the most
with the
recent
real
one.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's on there. She's wild. She's wild. Yeah. I started watching that show with a friend of mine and his wife. I was visiting them, and I was like, what is this train wreck? And I got like super, it's like 2 hours long, and I got like super
There's
into
three
it.
vignettes, right? 3 stories they've
Yeah,
done.
there's like so many spin-offs now, you know. And I was at my sister's house, and she was watching it, and I was like, oh my God, you watch this too? And it like opened up this whole new relationship between my sister and I about 90 Day Fiancé, and like we text each other, and like it's a whole thing. But
It's got to be material in that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, holy hell.
Yeah.
So material. Let's speak about material. 'Cause This is the thing that cracks me up about comedians. Like, everyone's got a different way they do it, or at least they say they do. You know.
Yeah.
Like, is your material spontaneous? Do you sit down and write on purpose? Do you schedule writing session? You say you're into time management. Do you schedule time to sit and write?
I don't. I write every day.
Okay.
But like I said before, I get most of my inspirations when I'm walking. There's something about movement that gets my brain going, and it can be about anything really. It can be about like hot topics, current events, conversations I had with my friends, you know, whatever. Like, that's the time that my brain is really spinning.
Got it.
So a lot of the times when I'm going hiking or I'm walking, I usually do like a couple miles a day. And something will pop into my brain, and I'll kind of like run with it while I'm walking. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And then I'll put it in my phone.
How do you do that? Because I do something very similar. How do you get from your brain to your phone while you're in movement? Do you use voice?
I use Google Keep.
I have that app. You do audio notes?
I don't.
Okay.
I write
while you're walking.
While I'm walking. Yeah.
You have a special skill set, don't you?
Yes. I was a retail manager for 15 years. I can do it all. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So I make my dog stop walking sometimes and put it in there, but it's not a full thing. It's usually just like a concept of a thing.
Okay.
And then later on, usually at night, I'll be like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I want to go to bed, put my head down. Oh, remember all those things that you thought about on your walk?
Got it.
And then I'll go back to it and expand. Now with the pandemic, you know, there weren't mics or anything like that in the city. So I was doing online mics. Like, I utilized everything about online that I possibly could.
Got it.
I was posting concepts on my Instagram stories. My best friend gets the wildest text messages from me because I don't tell him these are jokes. I just send the joke. And he's like, what the hell? And I'm like, working on a joke. And he's like, I mean, that's funny, but like, what? Are you okay? What is happening? You know? So just that's like, great. Just like stuff like that. Just like using whatever I can use. Yeah. To see if it works or not.
Okay.
And it's like an ever-evolving kind of thing. And I think, you know, crowd work's super fun. I've been able to kind of dive back into that. That was something
so talk about that. For what is the pure definition of crowd work?
So crowd work is like when a comic picks you out from the crowd and
so
says,
don't sit up front unless you want to be part of the part of the
yeah, unless you want to be picked on.
Right.
That was something that I was working on before the pandemic, and you can't do crowd work online.
Right.
But I would host like corporate events.
Okay.
And so I did get a little bit of crowd work during the corporate events, you know, with like whoever owned the company or whoever sponsored the thing.
Is that like could that be part of a comedian's career path where like a corporation would hire them to I don't know, like would you host an event so a speaker would come up and then you would like introduce people in between?
Oh yeah, for sure.
What's that called?
For sure. Just hosting, I think.
So hosting is its own
hosting's its own thing.
Okay. I remember my corporate days.
Or like emceeing.
Okay, emceeing. Okay.
And there are people that just do that. You know,
but you gotta be funny, right?
You gotta be funny. You have to be
personable. I know some MCs are great people. They're not funny.
Yeah, you gotta be personable. You gotta be able to like make people comfortable wherever they are.
Okay.
You know, it's really about like reading people and their personalities in the room and what the event is. Also, you know, you're not going to do raunchy jokes at UPMC.
At a proctology convention.
Right. You know what I mean? Like you kind of got to like gauge. And there are people that's all they do is corporate events because corporate has money.
Got it.
You know, you can make a lot of money off corporate.
Got it.
There's some people that are like, I won't even touch it. And you
Why?
know,
Why would someone be adverse to doing that?
I mean, I can't speak for anybody personally.
No, I'm not asking for individuals.
Yeah, I think that some people find their lane and stick to that lane. I'm kind of a weirdo in that, like, I want the full experience.
Well, yeah.
You know, I want it all. I want to try everything. And I let people know that out the gate. Like, hey, if you need this, I'll try it out. If you need that, I'll try it out.
Okay.
I've done this. You know, let's work on that together.
You haven't done birthday parties and shit yet, right?
No, but if you need a birthday host, Esmo on Instagram. No, I haven't done stuff like that. But there are people that like do events, you know, and stuff like that. So, and I think that like, you know, I've seen a lot of these like crossover events and I just like think to myself like, man, like some DJs hate shouting out to the crowd. That's why you have hype men, you know, like the hype man is the greatest MC on earth because they are getting everyone pumped.
Right on.
You know? And so like, if that's not something you're strong at and you don't want to get stronger at it, bring somebody else in.
Absolutely.
To do it for you.
Absolutely.
I mean, just like going to car shows and the people that are on the turntable talking about the car, you know, like there's all these different avenues that you can go once you start doing this stuff that I never even thought of.
Got it.
You know?
Got it. Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't come to mind to me, but yeah, now I get it.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's comedians that do voice acting. There's comedians that, you know, do stunt stuff. There are comedians that do just stand-up comedy and that's their shtick. And there's just improvisers and that's their shtick. But I think there's also a great number of people who do multiple things in that world.
Got it. Well, magicians in comedy. Do you ever see those together?
Yeah. There was actually, I think, just like, or maybe it didn't happen yet, but a guy that does like magic and comedy kind of combined at the improv. And that is another showman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he is performing to the audience.
Right on.
And doing his stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you can go any which way.
I like my magicians to be funny.
You know, I was a big David Copperfield fan back in the day. And then it ended.
Wasn't much funny about him.
No, he was definitely creepy. But
he was creepy.
That's kind of where it ended. You know, David Blaine was cool to me for a little bit.
Is he still around?
I think.
He wasn't comedic though, right?
I think he wasn't comedic. But he was very intense with his connection to whoever he was doing tricks. Like he had that whole like street magic situation before he really blew up.
That Chris Angel, right? He's not funny either, right?
No, he's not
illusionist.
Funny. No, he's
a wannabe rock star.
He's like a goth magician, is what I think of.
A goth
with his
magician.
Look, you know, like it's
I
very.
think he just wanted to be a rock star. It just didn't work out for him. Maybe. You know.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Copperfield.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I'm kind of like, I'm not going to do magic. You know.
Why not? You tried everything else.
I know that's not my thing.
How do you know?
Because I have no draw to it.
No pull to it. Okay.
I have no.
That's fair enough.
Yeah,
that's
fair enough. It's like okay, you can do tricks. I'm good.
You can do tricks.
My life has been tricky enough. I don't need you to set an illusion on me. You know, like I'm good.
Yeah, some of that shit's spooky though. Some of the illusions are so good that I mean, they do leave you going, how the hell did they do that? And you know there's something logical.
Yeah, that's why I loved watching David Blaine's street magics. People would like, not only were the tricks cool, but like the reactions.
Oh, they were astounded.
People were freaked out.
Horrified
man.
sometimes, too.
You know, yeah. And then he'd go to other countries and it's like, oh, you can't be doing that. People are going to think you're voodoo. You know, like, and there's consequences.
End up killing you.
They will. But yeah, I think, you know, it's cool. I think anything that like gets a genuine reaction and not in a hurtful way is a special thing.
I would agree.
You know, 100%.
I would agree. Let me ask you about your thoughts on limits in comedy. Last couple of years, it's been how do I say this? It's been in the conscious of America that we don't want to make jokes about groups of individuals that were at one time, I don't know if acceptable is the right word, but more commonplace.
Yeah.
And I generally think that people kind of fall on one side or the other. You know, I don't think anyone really wants to hurt other people, but some people believe that comedy has no limits. If it's funny, it's fucking funny.
Right.
Or do we need to be more sensitive now because you want to make them laugh? You're not out to hurt anybody.
Right.
So are we too sensitive? Are we sensitive enough? What's your take on all that?
I mean, I think that like that whole premise is so new.
Okay.
That idea of you can't joke about this is a very new thought.
Last couple of years?
Yeah. And I think no matter what, there's going to be people, there's shock jocks. And that's what they do. You know, should they do it or not? Meh. I don't know. Have I been in situations where things have been said and I get uncomfortable? Yes. But that is me personally. That something in me became heightened.
Okay.
Because of what was said.
Okay.
I think this idea of like there are topics that should not be talked about, I don't really see it that way. I think that you can talk about anything if you're doing it in the right way.
Okay.
And you know, Dave Chappelle's an amazing example. Like his last special, he talked about LGBTQIA and put them in a car together, and you know, how did that car ride go? Like, that is amazing. Were people offended? Probably.
They're always going to be offended.
They're always going to be offended. But to take
I thought we were supposed to want to be offended. Like, I thought the thing about comedy was we wanted our sensibilities to be offended, even for a brief moment.
You know, I think
get our emotional laugh out, and then we go back to normality.
Yeah, I think
normalcy.
I think that like there's so much offense in the world that people are tired.
You think that's it?
And I think that, you know, there's also, you know, we will acknowledge we are both white.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah. And
at least visually.
I mean, if you're not online looking at us, we are both white people, which allows us to skate and allows us to brush off a lot of things.
I would absolutely agree with you.
And I think that, you know, we're in a real transition period where people are saying enough. Enough of making a joke at my cost.
But what I find interesting is, to me, it's all the fucking white people, to my eyeballs, who are the ones being offended.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's what's unbelievable
I mean,
to me.
there's that
I
whole,
understand
like,
what you're saying. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But to me, it's not happening. The black community is not pushing back on us for being offended over jokes. A portion of the white community is. It's really astounding to me.
I mean, there is a term white fragility for a reason.
You think?
You know, I mean, think about, I like to speak in analogies. So let's think about high school. And in high school,
I can remember back then.
yeah, wherever you went in high school, there were the popular kids, the untouchables, that seemed to get everything. And, you know, people aspired to be like them. And there were, you know, the nerds who stayed in their corner and were picked on by the untouchables. And, you know, you have all these cliques and they don't really interact with one another. But there are people who like cross those boundaries for sure.
You're talking to one.
You know, yeah. And same. And I think in, you know, if you look at America as a high school, white people are those untouchables who have been able to get away with literal murder because of who they are and the way that they're viewed in the microcosm of America, you know? And now we are at a point where that shit doesn't fly anymore on a social aspect across the board, comedy or not.
Right.
You know,
right.
You get into these conversations about hair, you know, box braids, appropriation of prints, of fabrics, of, you know, that sort of thing. So it's not just comedy.
Yeah.
You know, it's every aspect. It's seeing a board of a corporation and it being all white men, you know, and I think it's almost too early to say, no, you can't joke about that, or yes, you can joke about that, because there are so many other factors that are coming into play that we kind of got to shake it out and reset.
Okay.
And I think in this last year, you know, everybody was at home watching TV and saw everything that happened, sometimes live.
Yep.
And it kind of makes you reflect on yourself if you're emotionally intelligent, and look back at stuff and think like, oh man, I did this and that was like super shitty. I'm never going to do that again.
Oh, it's called learning.
It's called learning and it's growth, you know? And I think that like,
but you got to want that.
You got to want it and you got to be open to it. And you also have to be okay with being told that's not okay.
Agreed.
And I think, you know, if somebody wants to come at a comic for a joke, fine, do it. But don't do it on some fluff.
Like, what do you mean?
You know, don't come at, all right, well, Bill Cosby's canceled, you know, for obvious reasons.
For good reasons, for legitimate reasons.
Legit had jokes about roofies. You know, and I think that that's a great example of people saying, we don't do this anymore.
1,000%.
You know,
1,000%.
A lot of my friends will be grooving And then, Michael Jackson or R. Kelly comes on and we're like, ugh, I'm uncomfortable now. Whereas before, we'd keep grooving.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see it in these like small waves happening across the board.
But we are hypocritical, though.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is I had a conversation one time where it was a decade or so ago, but a decade ago, and I was someplace at some metal show that I was working at, and this person I was with was taking exception to the lyrics of the song, and I didn't know the band I was working. It was pretty coarse. But on the way home, she was driving the group of us literally on her, she's listening to Snoop Dogg, and she puts it on. She didn't put it on. I made her put it on. And I said, listen, I'm not making a value judgment on the guy's entertainment value.
Yeah.
But you can't be that hypocritical.
Right.
If you are, people in glass houses, and I think that's kind of a reflection of most of America. If they really dig deep,
absolutely, yeah.
We shouldn't have. If you're really offended,
right, by
what you see today, go back and re-examine your life and see where that same offense is happening, and you're kind of okay with it.
And I also,
it drove me crazy.
I also wonder how much of social media plays into this, because before, growing up, celebrities were celebrities, and that was it. You knew nothing about their personal life. There was a page in Us Weekly, like,
so true.
Celebs are so like us, getting coffee and
true.
And now with social media, celebrities have like taken that veil away.
They've done it on their own.
And us as an audience now sees the artist and the person.
And their viewpoints.
And some of them are very vocal about it, and some of them are not. And I think that there was a switch there where it's like...
I think you're right.
a lot of, like, Van Gogh. Van Gogh's amazing artist. Terrible to women.
Salvador Dali, same
We
thing.
still
I get it.
emulate his artwork because he didn't have Instagram. We didn't see him socially and doing the things he was doing, and so now that has switched, and we see the person as a whole, and we kind of ruin the facade of these celebrities are heroes. And
this is going to be something America's going to have to sort out, because you're 100% right, Sarah. It's like, we can go back and try to cancel out George Washington because he did some pretty bad shit.
Yeah.
But you can't.
We have slave owners on dollar bills, but nobody's canceling that. You know what I mean? Like, we emulate.
But I guess but if you were to do that, I'm not making a judgment, but I'm just asking the other side of the coin. There's no denying, but it was so ingrained in their society. It doesn't make it right. But I'm just saying, if we look critical to find fault in any historical person.
Everybody has faults.
Any historical person, we can cancel out history completely. Wipe it out like we just showed up one day. There was nothing before us. And I guess I don't know, how do we maneuver, like, who has the court of opinion, the real opinion that says this was so bad they shouldn't be in a history book, and this is acceptable because it isn't so bad, and then we rewrite history, which I don't know, how does that serve us going forward? Because we'll end up making the same goddamn mistakes if we got nothing to reference, right? If you erase Hitler, you erase him because he was the worst human being walking the planet. But if we don't talk about him, then the next generation is not going to know that that example of evil was here.
Right. I'm
not saying put a monument to him.
Right.
I don't believe in any monument to a slave owner. We shouldn't be celebrating anyone.
Right.
But to wipe them out of the documents of what transpired in that era is ridiculous. That's short-sighted, I think. I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm just saying that's a prevailing thought in society.
Yeah.
We got to wipe these people out. To what extent? To our own lack of knowledge then, going forward?
I think that as a society in the past, we have honored people who have done
there's no question.
Terrible things.
No question.
Because of power.
I think we're saying that right, though. I think that we're slowly starting to set that right, and I think that's a good thing.
There's definitely a shift happening. I think also people have gotten very used to instant gratification. And I think that's
a whole nother conversation.
That is something that doesn't happen when it comes to these issues.
Right.
You know, we know
right.
these issues are serious issues and need to be fixed. Mm-hmm. We want them fixed now. Mm-hmm. That is not reality. You know, the flip a switch and making it happen right now is not things have to be completely rearranged, not only economically, as a society, morally, but individually as people, you know.
But it doesn't happen overnight.
And it does not happen
on
overnight.
A lot of different issues.
Right. But it does not happen overnight. And I think I come into conversations and like somebody will say something and I'm just like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
You know, and I can feel that in me kind of being like, this is gonna piss me off.
Yeah.
But I, as a person, as an individual, give the person grace because I don't know where they're coming from.
I get it. Yeah. You know? Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that
it's better for you too, though.
It's better for me also. Yeah. And it takes a lot to be able to do that.
Practice.
Yeah.
It's practice.
A lot of practice. And
I use the word indifference, and when I say that, people immediately say, well, I can't be that way. And I said, you're not taking the word right. I'm talking about personal indifference regarding my own mental health.
Yeah.
You're making a decision right there that you're not indifferent to the cause. You're indifferent to this particular person's rant that's coming my way. That it's not going to affect my life or my belief. I don't want to engage them because it's not going to improve my life any. It's not going to change my core belief.
Right.
And I have to entertain this nonsense and ingest it. That's where I like the word indifference.
Yeah, and we also have a responsibility to let people know that's not okay anymore.
Right.
It might have been.
Yeah, I mean.
It might have been at one time. Real funny.
100%.
But it's 2021.
Yeah.
Welcome.
We came here kicking, goddammit.
We're not doing this anymore. You know, you can talk about things. I think, you know, like going back to the historical figures, like, yeah, we can wipe them off the board. But at the same time, you aren't your future without your past.
Yeah. It's very well put.
And I think that, you know, with the whole Hitler thing, and it's been said many times, Germany was not founded on hate.
No.
Hitler came later.
Sure was.
America was founded on people who literally didn't want to pay taxes and ran. And if you don't think that plays into the start of this country, I'm sorry. I disagree.
I think that's a big part of it. I think there was also other oppressions going on from the king. I don't think it was just taxation.
No, I mean that's like a very like.
But it's part of it.
It's a very gloss over.
It's certainly part of it. They weren't. I don't think they were getting any kind of representation for what they were paying. I think that's if I read history, it's the way I read history.
But isn't it interesting that the reason they left
is what's happening to us today?
It's what's happening right now.
There's no question.
You know,
there's no doubt.
And breaking the cycle is something that I think we're going through, and I think is happening, and I'm hoping it's happening, because it should. Yeah,
there's a lot that needs to change, and that's why I think it was. People say, well, you know, all these social issues came to head during the pandemic. I'm like, well, of course they did.
Yeah.
Of course they did. You're not thinking it through. For you to even insinuate that there's something weird there, no. That's completely logical. How could it not?
Right.
You know?
Right.
How could it not?
I mean, I think people always look for an easy out.
That's exactly right.
And
that's the human experience, right?
Yeah, and like pandemic, easy out. This is the cause of everything. Conspiracy.
But the cancel culture in general, in terms of comedy, you really like Eddie Murphy gets. Was one of the funniest people I've ever knew growing up. But there's a certain amount of citizens that wanted to cancel him out because of horrific things he said. pretty horrific things he said. I've heard worse. That he's probably stated, I don't feel this anymore. I don't repeat these things because they were wrong. He already said, I don't practice this kind of comedy
I'll tell
anymore.
you what, but
you can't cancel the guy. Like, what's that even mean? Cancel him
as
out.
a teenager, we would watch Eddie Murphy Raw and Delirious after school. I knew it.
Yeah.
Verbatim.
Me too.
You know?
Me too.
Verbatim.
Me too.
I went back and watched it as an adult recently. And there were moments where I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
So even just that journey of like, oh, I was a kid and this made me laugh really hard. I didn't think of it in the same way.
It's called growth, right?
Yeah, as I'm thinking of it now.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that, look, people love to see people rise and fall. And if they can help that fall,
it's the American way.
They're going to help that fall.
But do we forgive anymore? We used to tear idols down and then give them the opportunity to rebuild and recapture our love and trust. I don't know if that actually can happen
I don't
anymore.
think we have the attention span for it.
Good point. Maybe the internet and social media caused that.
I think that's
a good point.
You know, now people are like, oh, you fucked up, moving on.
Yeah.
And then people might come back in a different way. But at the end of the day, we've moved on.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Look at Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah.
They hung her out to dry, man.
Yeah.
And she's just been on the low doing her thing. And now she's popping back up again. But she's always going to have that stigma with Bill Clinton no matter what. Eddie Murphy's always going to have that stigma of the jokes he did in the 70s and 80s. You know, like that sticks. But at the same time,
but how much damage to his life is it really happening now? It doesn't seem like it is. I'm not saying it should, but I just don't.
I think he's just also at another level.
Like, what do you mean?
Like money wise.
Okay.
You know, I think that Eddie Murphy's got money. If Eddie Murphy doesn't want to do another set a day in his life, he can.
Well, Chappelle's the same.
He can still pay his
they can't
bill.
cancel Chappelle.
Yeah, I mean they're doing it because they love it. You know.
We talked about Rogan before. Like Rogan can get away, and I mean that he can do anything he absolutely wants. Because if a good portion of society gets offended by what he says, he really doesn't care.
Listen, Rogan is saying what a lot of America wishes they could say. And he has a platform to do it. And I think, you know, I've been seeing some slander on Rogan and the stuff he's been saying lately, you know, with like the vaccines and politics and I think it's good for societies to have those people that like push the buttons.
Sure, 100%.
Because it is like a temperature control. You know,
it's also a pushback against government, and we need that, whether we agree with them or not. It is a pushback, and sometimes even if it's the wrong philosophical bent from where you are, the fact that there's pushback, you almost want to applaud that because you don't want no pushback.
Right. Yeah. Then you're just subservient.
Yep. Which is what's that ruling class wants, anyways.
Right.
You know.
And I mean, we've seen countries that are that way. We have history of countries that have completely collapsed and no longer exist.
Got that right.
And do we want to be one of those? You know, I don't know. I got a house. I know that much.
You got a house,
but like,
you love your internet,
and I love my internet. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, like, I also like to look at things from many angles and also as broadly and as introspectively
Sarah, they
as
call
possible.
that critical thinking.
Well,
and that is not done enough in this country.
I do that. And I think that, you know, one of the things with quarantine, which I use loosely, is a lot of people were like, we're on lockdown. And I'm like, actually, we have it real easy. You know, and I'm lucky in that I know people who live in other countries and have experienced what we experienced on a very different level. And so my perspective was a little bit different because of that.
We're so soft.
Yeah, and it's
so soft
and it's
in
just
this
like,
country.
dude, you can still go outside.
Yeah.
Like, I have friends who weren't allowed outside you know? But I know that I'm not in the majority of thinking in that way. And, you know, that is also something that I need to take in consideration sometimes when I'm having touchy conversations with people.
Right.
Is like, you know, what is their life experience?
You have to.
Because that's what you're bringing.
Well, we don't, and that, I just had this conversation. It's so true. We don't think enough about the fact that what we perceive about somebody and we think we know about them is so far removed from what actually might be happening, or such a very small snapshot of what the big picture is with them. So us making these big global judgments on them, they don't hold any merit. And we enter conversations that way, or interactions all the time, all day long. It's nuts.
It's the human way. You know, it's the human way. And it's unfortunate at times. Sometimes I think, you know, it's necessary. I think, you know, it can kind of be like a mental fight or flight situation where you go in and you're like, this person freaks me out. I'm out of here. You know, bye.
Yeah, sometimes your gut will tell you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think women especially, you know, I mean, I think the women's intuition is not the same as a male intuition. I think your gender is well advised to listen to their own intuition, because I think it generally is right. My experience of the women that I've known in my life, when they know something, they freaking know it.
And nothing you say.
Well, yeah, whether I tried or not, but it turns out to be right.
Yeah, we might placate you into thinking that you are correct, just so that you'll shut the hell up.
You see how this goes.
But at the end of the day,
truth comes out. We
know our gut, and we are taught.
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you how many times growing up, listen to your gut, listen to your gut. And there is something to that, and that like gets back to like the primal instinct of living. You know, animals are the same way. I love going to this one dog park by my house that's next to a playground and watching the children on the playground and the dogs in the dog park and how similar they act. And there are kids that are like, you know, really well behaved and like, you know, playing good and going up to other people and, you know, and
being kind,
listening to their adults, and, you know, like, Colin, come here, and, you know, he goes right to whoever the adult is. And then there's like other kids who are like balls out, like, you know, like licking the slide, like their parents are like, Steven,
dirt.
Like Steven doesn't know that's his name, you know. Like eating dirt, like smacking a kid, you know. And then you look at the dog park and it's the same thing. Like there's that one
the
good
bully dog. They find the bully dog.
And then there's like, you know, the dickhead dog that's like peeing on everyone, and like, you know, and I love sitting there and just like watching it play out. You know, because it is life entertainment, you know. And
it's Darwin, and
you know, I don't know that much really like comes into conversation anymore when it comes to how people interact with one another and talk to one another, and, you know, just live in your space on Earth. I think Earth is rad. I love it. You know, like I'm
good with Earth.
Like it's our home. You know what I mean? And I think like to not think of like the repercussions that humans have on Earth and how that is going to transpire for future generations.
We just kick the can down. You know? We're very comfortable as a species to kick the can down the road. We're the ultimate procrastinators. I don't know if the animal kingdom has the concept of procrastination in their mechanism, but all we do as humans, and there's little sections of humans that are like type A's and all that. I get it. But as an aggregate, as a whole, we procrastinate.
I mean, like,
everything.
I don't know the statistics, but like I imagine
they don't either. They make them up.
I mean, but like I imagine humans are the most dense type of, not like mentally, but like there's more
Why not?
humans
That too.
on Earth
Yeah.
than other species. Like maybe ants have us beat out, or like cockroaches. I don't know.
Yeah, but insect world might have us beat. But
Yeah.
in terms of mammals and things, I would agree with you.
Yeah, but I think
Because
that like
we've killed them all.
we've killed them all, like literally. And and I think it's interesting to think of people in that way, because like you're saying, like we'll take ant colonies. Like the ant colonies have like the workers and like the queen or whatever, and like and humans kind of have that too, but on a much more segregated level, because we're not working as a team.
Yeah.
We're working.
Oh, we could learn a lot from ants.
Yeah, we can learn a lot from a lot of stuff around us. It's just like tapping that part of you open to.
But if we
see
did,
it.
you wouldn't have as much to joke about.
You never know.
See?
You never know. I find humor in a lot.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Did you have fun?
Super fun, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went like a million different
This is
directions.
fantastic.
I loved
That's
it.
exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
You delivered the goods.
Good.
Did you have fun?
I did.
You come back and do this again?
I will absolutely come
sure?
back. Yeah, anytime.
All right. It's on film.
You've already been in my DMs once. Just slide right back in whenever you want. Let me know.
It was innocent. I said I have two questions. What did I say? I said, is the tattoo right? Is that actually a tattoo?
That's a thing. Yeah.
And what was the other question?
About comedy.
What was it? She doesn't remember.
How did you get into it?
Yep.
There were so many questions.
There are so many questions.
And they were all well done. And I appreciate you having me here.
Absolutely. And how can they reach you?
Just, I would say definitely through Instagram, because there's
It's the main portal.
a million Sarah Morgans on Facebook.
There is. I noticed that too.
Yeah.
There's I think you type in your name, there's some kind of, is it actress or is it
It probably asks you like how to filter down to
I use Google.
Sarah Morgan. But yeah, ESS underscore MOE
Esmo
is my handle on everything.
Now I looked at that Esmo for hours trying to think, what the hell does, I'm thinking Esso, the gasoline
man, you're trying
Esso.
too hard.
I guess. Yeah, but if you just put an S and a period MO, I would have been like down with that.
It's not that deep. It's not that deep.
It turned out to not be that deep. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, do this again soon.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, friends, we're out.
Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.